Hello and welcome to Lantern Lane Stories. Tonight's story is Simon, the only cat to win a war medal. Hong Kong harbor woke up slowly. The sky turned pale orange above the water. Fishing boats rocked in the early tide. Big gray ships sat still at the dock. The air smelled of rope, fish, and warm stone. A young sailor named George walked along the waterfront. George was 17 years old. His uniform was crisp and blue. His boots clicked softly on the dock stones. He had been far from home for many months. He was glad to be in Hong Kong, but also a little lonely. Then he heard something. A very tiny sound. Mew. He stopped. He looked down. Tucked between two large coils of rope sat a cat. It was black and white, like a small piece of newspaper. Its ribs showed through its thin fur. Its ears were too big for its small face. Its green eyes looked straight up at George. "Oh," George whispered, "you poor little thing." The cat mewed again. George looked back at his ship. It was called HMS Amethyst. A Royal Navy frigate, clean and serious in the morning light. He was not allowed to bring animals on board. He knew the rules. He knew them very well. But those eyes were asking him something. He could not say no. He gently picked up the little cat. He tucked it inside his jacket, close to his chest. The cat went perfectly still. Its tiny heart beat fast against his palm. "Don't make a sound," George whispered. The cat made no sound at all. That was March 1948. That was the day a hungry little cat walked into history. George kept Simon hidden below decks at first. He brought scraps from the ship's kitchen every day. Simon ate everything offered to him. He grew a little stronger each morning. Then Simon started to explore. The ship was long and full of narrow passages. It smelled of engine oil, metal, and the open sea. Simon padded through every corridor. He sniffed every boot and peeked into every doorway. He was curious about absolutely everything. He also discovered something important. Rats. The lower decks had a rat problem. The rats were sneaky and fast. They crept into food stores and chewed through ropes. Every ship had this trouble. But Simon was a very good hunter. Within a few days, the sailors noticed fewer rats. They also noticed a small black and white shape trotting through the passages. "Whose cat is that?" said one sailor. "George's," said another, grinning. The captain, a man named Ian Griffiths, came to see for himself. Simon sat very straight and blinked at him. Captain Griffiths was a sensible man. He saw that the rat problem was already shrinking. He saw that the sailors smiled more whenever Simon passed by. He opened the ship's log and wrote 4 words. Simon, ship's cat. Simon now had an official name on the rolls. He was crew. He celebrated by climbing into the captain's own cab and falling fast asleep. Nobody moved him. He also began leaving small gifts on the sailors' beds each night. His best catches. The sailors pretended to be horrified, but they laughed every single time. Simon was family. The months passed pleasantly. The ship visited many ports. In early 1949, a new captain arrived. His name was Lieutenant Commander Bernard Skinner. He met Simon on his very first morning aboard. Simon walked up to him and sat right on his foot. Well, said the captain, looking down, hello to you then. Simon purred. The captain smiled. That April, the ship received a new mission. HMS Amethyst would sail up the Yangtze River in China. The Yangtze is one of the longest rivers in the whole world. Its water runs wide and brown across flat green plains. Water buffaloes stood at the muddy banks. White birds flew low, just skimming the surface. The river smelled of clay and warm rain. Simon sat at the front of the ship and watched the banks glide past. His ears turned at every new sound. His whiskers caught the moist river wind. Then, halfway through the journey, the ship had to stop suddenly. A great noise came from far away on the shore. The ship shuddered hard. Simon was thrown against the wall of the captain's cabin. He landed in a dark corner and lay very still. The doctor found him there and carried him to the medical bay. Simon was badly hurt. He had burns across his back. He had cuts on all 4 legs. I'm not sure he will recover, the doctor said quietly. But Simon did recover. 3 days later, Simon opened his eyes. He blinked slowly at the doctor. The doctor let out a long, quiet breath. Outside, the river was silent. The ship was stuck. And it would stay stuck for more than 100 days. The Yangtze summer was hot and heavy. The air sat thick and warm over the water. Insects hummed in the tall reeds on the bank. The ship's food was running dangerously low. And the rats returned. When food grows scarce, rats grow bold. They crept through the storage rooms at night. They gnawed at the last sacks of grain. The sailors were already tired and worried. They could not lose their food too. Then Simon got up. He was still healing. His fur was uneven where the burns had been. His steps were slower than before. But he began to patrol the passages again. Every night he moved quietly through the dark. He was patient. He was careful. He worked until the job was done. Sometimes the sailors heard him in the night. A soft scuffle, then silence. In the morning, they saw his work. Simon again, they said, shaking their heads. That stubborn, wonderful cat. There was one rat that was especially large and clever. It had escaped every trap the crew had ever set. The sailors had given it a funny nickname, the way sailors do. That rat had never once been caught. Until Simon. One morning, the big rat was simply gone. Simon sat beside the storage room door. He looked very pleased with himself. The food was safe. Simon also did something quieter each day. Every morning, he walked through the medical bay. He climbed gently up onto each bed. He sat with each sailor who was hurt. He purred. A purring cat is one of the most calming sounds in the world. The sailors stroked his soft, patchy fur. Their breathing slowed. Their faces softened. Simon came again today. One sailor wrote in his diary. He stayed for a long time. It helps more than I can say. On a dark July night in 1949, HMS Amethyst slipped quietly down the river. The ship moved without lights. The water was black and still. The night air smelled of river mud and distant sea. Simon sat at the bow. His eyes watched the dark shore pass by. Then the river opened wide. The sea stretched out ahead, silver under the stars. The sailors breathed out all at once. Some of them laughed. Some of them cried. Some reached down and patted Simon without saying a word. "We made it," they said softly. "We made it, Simon." When the ship came home to Britain, Simon was famous. Letters arrived from all over the country. Children wrote to him. Grandparents wrote to him. Whole school classes drew pictures and sent them to the ship. The Royal Navy decided to give Simon a very special award. It was called the Dickin Medal. The Dickin Medal is the highest honor any animal in Britain can receive. It had been given to dogs who carried urgent messages through great danger. It had been given to horses who carried the wounded. It had been given to pigeons who flew through storms with news that could not wait. But never in all of history to a cat. Until now, a sailor bent down and placed the medal gently around Simon's neck. It was small and round, hanging on a ribbon striped green and brown. Simon sat very straight. He looked out at the crowd with calm, steady eyes. The ribbon rested against his chest. He looked, everyone agreed, exactly like a hero. Simon's story began on a Hong Kong dock. It began with 2 coils of rope. It began with a thin, hungry cat and a young sailor who could not walk away. Today, Simon rests in a small garden in London. His gravestone reads, Simon Abel Seacat. That is his rank. A rank he truly earned. His Dickin Medal is still the only one ever given to a cat. If you visit Hong Kong one day, walk along the harbor in the early morning. The air still smells of salt and rope and warm stone. Look down between the boats tied to the dock. Think of a 17-year-old sailor looking down at a pair of hopeful eyes. Think of a small cat who sailed far away, kept his crew fed, and came home wearing the greatest medal an animal can earn. And so, Hong Kong also slowly fell asleep. Good night.